Good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Here.
Attorney Murphy? Here. Mr. Collins? Here. Ms. Gresham?
Here.
Ms. Hurst?
Here.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor?
Present.
Mayor Sarno?
President, if we could all please rise for a moment of silence. I'd like to dedicate it to Bishop Bryant Robinson, a true gentleman, our first ever acting black superintendent back in the late 1980s and 90s as Mary Hurley's office, and just a great, great guy. May God rest his soul, and we'll see you at the services. And then we'll go into the Pledge of Allegiance. A moment of silence for Bishop Bryant Robinson. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move to voting items. A is a vote to approve the High School of Science and Technology overnight field trip request to Skills USA National Leadership Skills Conference, Atlanta, Georgia, departing June 23rd, 2025, returning June 28th, 2025. I know Shelley is here. Superintendent, Dr. Deneau, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to go straight to having Shelley come on up and answer any questions about this amazing opportunity for our scholars at the High School of Science and Technology. We are very much familiar with Skills USA, and we know that our students go there and perform very well as they compete in different areas. So I'm just going to allow you to elaborate just for a couple of minutes to fill in the gaps.
AKA the Redcoats.
That's right. They love their red blazers. So this year, we're very excited to add SciTech to the competitions of Skills USA. This will be our first year. We just started. So we're looking forward to starting off with districts, moving on to states, and then hopefully being able to take our students to nationals so that they can at least experience that opportunity as they're learning about Skills USA. And so we plan to hopefully partner with Putnam, be able to share costs with travel and things like that as we both attend.
Thank you, Shelley. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to
Gonzalez?
this motion on the floor to approve this overnight field trip to Skills USA National Leadership and Skills Conference.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. There's no questions or comments. Motion made by Mr. Gonzalez. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Collins. Roll call vote is required. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy? Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient votes, matter passes. Thank you very much. B is a vote to approve. Thanks, Shelley. B is a vote to approve the Bowles Elementary overnight field trip request to Redgate Farm in Asheville, Massachusetts, departing on June 2nd, 2025, returning June 4th, 2025. Principal McCann is on remotely. We go to Redgate a lot.
Yes.
Please, Madam Superintendent, Dr. Deneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Principal McCain, for making sure that your students are able to learn, communicate, and persist as they engage in the learning opportunities at the Redgate Farm. I know they'll be setting some academic goals, and they'll be doing some other things, recognizing their academic strengths, as well as looking to opportunities to strengthen their current skill set. Please go ahead and feel free to elaborate just a little bit more about what your students will be doing at Redgate Farm.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the time. I think this is a great opportunity for our students, our 4th and 5th grade. The biggest obstacle is to have parents, kids want to go, but it's a little scary for parents sometimes to send their kids away. And last year was our first year going, and kids had an amazing time. We had about 30 students, and they have a couple groups that they get in, but they work in the fields, on the farm, they work animals, they do chores, they prepare their food, they serve their food, they eat family style. So we're really excited. And many of the students that went last year just came in and said, could I have the form? My son and daughter had an excellent time there, and I'm looking forward to doing it again. So we appreciate it, the opportunity to have our kids learn, communicate, and persist.
Thank you, Principal McCann. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Gonzalez?
I move that we approve the Bowles Elementary School overnight field trip request to Redgate Farm.
Motion made by Mr. Gonzalez. No questions or comments. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Naylor. Roll call vote is required. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy? Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient votes. This matter passes. Thank you very much. C is the vote to approve an expenditure of $6,481,672 for the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, Clean Heavy Duty Vehicles Program. Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denal, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to say that these funds are right on time. I know that the mayor has had a history of fiscally responsible decisions and leading the charge on obtaining this multi-million-dollar grant is just in line with what you continue to do throughout the city and for the school department. So we do thank you for your vision. This is a critical this is a great opportunity because our environment is in a critical case, a situation where our CFCs contribute to the depletion of the ozone layer. So electric vehicles are right on time to decrease our carbon footprint. Thank you so much to Chief Pat Roach for making sure that the grant application was created in such a way and written in such a way that those who had to review it were able to say yes, yes, yes to Springfield. So if you have any further questions concerning this, Chief Pat Roach is here to answer any questions for you.
I had quite, Pat, are we been able to draw down on the account?
We haven't expended any of the money, so we're not able to draw down.
Okay, but we still have access, because I know on our, okay, good. Any questions or comments, Mr. Roach?
I do, Mr.
Ms. Gresham?
Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my question is, so you plug them in every night, or how does that work? Electric buses.
I'm not an expert on it. We're going to be partnering with First Student on how we're going to do it. They actually have this program running on some of their other accounts. The buses, my understanding is that they will plug in the buses every night, and they also have some pretty good plans for swapping batteries out when like a battery's running low, and they'll be plugging them in today, like when they come back in the middle of the day between runs, plugging them in so they're charged for the afternoon run.
Right, will the bus drivers be trained on how to use it, or will they be able to come and give us a update on how it works?
Absolutely, I think that's
Yeah, I think so. I have some questions that they probably could answer.
and I'll bring that know better than me on exactly how that will work. So happy to do that.
All right, perfect.
Thank you, Ms. Gresham. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, there was
Yes,
one
Vice
thing that
Chair.
came up. Thank you, sir. When we were in subcommittee, this did pass unanimously, but there was one lingering question, and I know Mr. Roach is still investigating some of these questions that we posed, but particularly around ownership of the vehicles and knowing that we are able to get this grant because we're working in collaboration with First Student. And one of the things that we talked about was this notion that when their contract expires, is there an assumption then that we will still have to renew their contract because now we have this agreement that is very expensive, that they are going to be the ones that are going to be purchasing the vehicles based on this funding? And so I wanted to at least put that out there so that we are aware that that is a conversation that we're looking to clarify. But this is not something that will happen overnight. This is something that is a few years down the line. So even once we approve it, it's still going to take a few years for the infrastructure to actually be put in place for this to actually happen. So I just wanted to make
No,
sure that that was
I'm
clarified.
glad you put that across, Vice Chair Naylor. Tony, we've had discussions with my city side with Kathy Bono and Pat about what role the city might play in and maybe looking to cut that contract down. It's a budget buster, about $42 million. And maybe that, we look at maybe doing something indirect or with First Student, but obviously when the bid comes up, that those discussions have already come up on that and also the recharging stations too on it. So Thank you for bringing that up. Any questions, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, is a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Collins, or second? Second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
Mr.
Attorney Murphy, Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Ms. Gresham,
Yes.
Ms. Hurst,
Yes.
Ms. Monroe Naylor,
Yes.
Mayor Sarno.
Yes, more than sufficient votes, matter passes. Thank you. D is to vote to approve the new MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, by and between the Springfield Public Schools, Springfield Police Department regarding access to school security cameras. I want to thank Vice Chair Naylor for the community meetings that she held. And I know that we have Adam Fenn here and Billy Schwartz from the Police Department. And my City Solicitor, Steve Bonacani, is also remote because there are some questions. And I know he's consulting Attorney Ian Keefe, also some questions. Superintendent Akers wants to get clarified, so we might have to delay just a little bit. I think we're there, but I want to thank all the meetings. So with that, let me turn it over to Superintendent Dr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A great deal of work did go into creating this MOU, a great deal of collaboration, a great deal of community input, as you already stated, and we are so grateful that we have arrived at an MOU that reflects not only the safety of our students, but also the needs and the wishes of the community. And I know that the safety of our students is first and foremost for each and every member of this school committee. So we are grateful for the collaboration and the outcome.
Thank you, Dr. Denault. Vice Chair Naylor, would you like to say something before we entertain a couple of questions and statements that have to be made?
Yes, I would. First and foremost, I thank the body, each and every one that has participated in those town halls that we had. It wasn't just a legislative and contract, but it was really a team effort. And I also am thankful for our staff, Director Finn leading the charge, and also Mr. Schwartz being very engaged in the process. We had a lot of community engagement, a lot of activity, a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. And I was really pleased with the fact that our attorneys really worked diligently to make sure that we created a document that was not just about equity, but also transparency and really speaking to the fullness of the process to ensure that everyone is safe and that we're able to do what is necessary to keep our schools safe as well as our community safe. And so with that, I know Attorney Keefe will be giving us a brief question and answer, I would assume, versus going through the entire document. But if anyone has a question, obviously we'll be more than present to be able to answer those questions at this time.
Thank you, Vice Chair Naylor. Attorney Keefe, and I know that City Solicitor Bonacani is remote too, on some clarifying, I don't want to say issues, but clarifying questions, crossing the T's and dotting the I's to give Police Superintendent Larry Akers just a double check on this. And so, Attorney Keefe?
Sure. So, we have the undertaking this process. What I was trying to do, and what I think we're all trying to do with drafting it, is really capture what's actually taking place, what has been happening with the camera program or with the access the past 3 years. And I think we're very close with the language. I did have some emails with the legal counsel's office, the city's legal department this morning. They had some questions that they had to clarify, I think, with the police department, and I'm happy to answer any questions they have now, or if we need to continue this further, but I think it might be easier than just going through line by line.
Okay, could I, with the indulgence of the school committee, Solicitor Bonacani, thank you for your efforts in working with Attorney Keefe and with the police department and the school department, obviously. Steve, Solicitor Bonacani, would you like to chime in that there was just a couple of things, Larry? I don't want to say Superintendent Akers had concerns with, but just wanted, before he considers signing off on this. Solicitor Bonacani?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening to you and to Vice Chair and all the members of the school committee and the superintendent. I'm Steve Bonacani. I'm the city solicitor. Our office was engaged late in the game on this matter. I think there was a lot of communication with the Springfield Police Department directly, and then we started becoming aware of the document late last week. And we had communications with the police department, and I've spoken to Superintendent Akers on several occasions on this matter. And I've also spoke with Attorney Keefe, and I think we're all looking to try to accomplish the same thing with this document. But whenever you have lawyers start taking a look at it, questions start becoming raised, and we have issues or concerns about language. And so coming late into the game, and Attorney Tom Moore in my office has been tasked with walking through the document and talking to Attorney Keefe. We would be asking for a brief extension to be able to walk through the document with Superintendent Akers line by line, which we really haven't been able to do. Superintendent Akers has been briefed orally about the project, about the MOU and the concept, and he's in full favor of that. But as we look at the language, we start raising some questions or concerns. Perhaps they're going to get addressed. We think most of them will be. But it will just help us be able to craft what we think to be a very cohesive document, one that all parties can agree with. Right now, there's a little bit of hesitancy from our department and from the police department to fully sign off. I'm not speaking for Bill Schwartz, but the superintendent would just like to have our comfort before he signs off on the document. And that's why we're asking this evening for a brief extension of, really, we think within a matter of 2 weeks or so, we should be squared away and be able to fully endorse the document presented to the committee.
Thank you, Solicitor Bonacani. I'll turn it back over to you, Attorney Keefe, if there's any questions or comments or.
I mean, my only comment is I think we are close. I think what City Solicitor has stated is accurate. We are very close with the language. The small revisions that was sent to me this morning, some small ones, I think they're very easy to understand and to incorporate. So, I'm happy to work with the city's legal department on wrapping this up, but I think we're very close.
So, Attorney Keefe, do you believe working with Police Superintendent Akers and Solicitor Bonacani and Adam Fenn and Billy Schwartz that we can come to a plausible agreement and get a sign off with winter or before 2 weeks?
I think so. Like I said, what has been discussed so far is really just clarification questions. I don't think we have any actual substance conflicts here.
That was my understanding. Okay.
It's just getting some of the language clarified and make sure everyone's understanding what the language means. And I think that was kind of the problem with the first MOU, which is hard to understand what it meant. So we're trying to really make this MOU something that you can read, the normal, the layperson can read and say, oh, I understand what's happening here.
I'll open it up to school committee members if there's any questions, and then if we could lay it on the table or put it up on it. But if there's any questions, so I believe we're very close.
So I actually,
Sirs.
Mayor, so at the last subcommittee meeting, I feel like many of us walked away from that particular meeting extremely happy, or at least I'll speak for myself, especially someone who was an opponent of this. So I'm interested to hear, what is it about the MOU the drafted MOU that we passed at subcommittee is or could potentially be different? Like, what is it that's being lifted up as a potential concern, or what sort of clarification can you share with us about what needs to be changed?
Sure. So I think the biggest change from what was approved at the subcommittee level and what we're working on now is we weren't actually capturing the practice that is happening where they were taking screen grabs on the exterior cameras. There was kind of there was a misunderstanding as to whether or not that was happening. That it is happening. It's part of, obviously for law enforcement purposes. If something going on, like maybe someone's robbing a car, right, or outside of the school district, or there's a fight out there, or some criminal activity is happening, and SPD is looking at viewing the live access of the exterior camera, and they want to take a quick screen grab to make sure, hey, this is to ID that person, and then obviously send it out to an officer who are going to be responding to the scene. It's helpful to have that picture. And I think from my conversation with everybody, that's something that has been a common practice, and it's fine to go forward with, but it wasn't really captured that well in the document, the original draft. So we're working with that language, and really that was the biggest thing. I would kind of defer any other questions to the city legal department.
Sure.
What issues they have with it. I think it's more, again, it's just them trying to understand what the language means in the context. I don't know what the understanding is at city legal department about what was actually happening with the camera, what the language is there for, and what the practice was. And I think they're just going to get their heads around what was happening and kind of make sure it's captured the correct way in the agreement, so they're not violating the agreement by accident.
I know that, and I'll turn back to Ms. Hurst, that this was very beneficial a few years back in the old DeBerry School, where the exterior camera helped us catch the shooter. So I think that's what brought up the issue about clarifying it, because that was the example that was brought up. Geez, we were able to get a quick photo and we were able to apprehend that person so they wouldn't hurt anybody else. I think that was the issue there, but I don't know if Solicitor Bonacani or Ms. Hurst. I think that was the one issue besides crossing T's and
Major issue. I think the difference is just
crossing T's and dotting the I's. Ms. Hurst or Solicitor Bonacani wants to say anything?
Briefly, Mayor, I think the two big issues are what Attorney Keefe mentioned, that the exterior camera access kind of became almost a newer issue at the latest school committee meeting, and that we learned about that, and that gave us some pause, and we just wanted to make sure we flushed that out with the police department to make sure there weren't going to be violations of the MOU. And then two is making sure we're clear about access. That was something that was extremely important at the last school committee meeting as to who's going to be accessing the camera footage. And I think there was clarification at the meeting, and it's in the document. We just want to make sure that access is properly defined so that it incorporates what the school committee's intent is, and something that the police department can work with, obviously. So those are the two issues. And again, I think we're quite close. We just want to make sure that the document stands on its own.
Thank you, Solicitor Bonacani. Attorney Keefe, any other questions or comments or motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor, because we don't meet again until the 13th of March. So I would make a motion that we extend the current contract to the 13th of March, midnight on 13th of March. Give us time to have another meeting.
Or if possible, as we did before, we'll call a special if we have to on that.
If we wait till the next school committee meeting, if legislative contracts wants to have a meeting in between, it gives them time. That's kind of why I went to the next scheduled meeting.
Vice Chair brings up a good point. We do have the Chapter 70 meeting, so if we had a signed off agreement from the school side, the superintendent, and from Superintendent Akers, that's just a perfunctory vote at that point in time. So
I don't think that would be prevented by my motion.
yeah,
I think we could still
we
do
could
it.
still put it on to chat. Okay,
Sorry, just so I'm clear, what are
we could. We have the Chapter 70 meeting at Putnam Vocational Technical Academy with the presentations, all the great work that's going on there. We could put that on. That's before the 13th. We could put that on there because then we have a signed agreement and we just voted in.
So that our Chapter 74 meeting is on the 13th of March?
No. It's before that. Yeah. So if say everything was already agreed to, we'll just we'll throw it on there. Take 2 seconds, and we're going to vote it through, and then we have the Chapter 74 meeting. And then I would think by that time we probably have things resolved.
Oh, it is. It's the 27th.
I think so.
Attorney Keefe, Solicitor Bonacani, Billy, you think with Larry?
It's not.
Okay.
2 weeks should be fine, Your Honor. Yeah, that's actually gives us more than 2 weeks. We should be fine with that.
All right. So
may I
Yeah.
ask a question? Attorney Keefe, I remember, and you weren't here yet, but I know you looked through our policy book very well and often. We actually voted on the agreement for the external cameras prior to this actual agreement being put in place for the real-time access. Now, what I want to understand is when we put this MOU in place, did that disregard the former agreement that we had or policy, or is that working in tandem with that agreement?
I would have to look back at it, but my understanding is that the current agreement doesn't have any language that references the prior agreement with the exterior cameras, and that's not in the policy. The exterior camera, I could not find that in the policy handbook unless it's maybe online or maybe it just hasn't been updated yet. But I don't see any language in the current active contract that says it supersedes any previous agreement. And I don't know where that previous agreement would be.
So I think that that's something that we absolutely need to look at as well, because my concern is that it's two different conversations. Like the real time access and accessing our external cameras is one thing, but accessing our cameras in general was another whole thing that we talked about. And I remembered it was a very heated conversation because we were concerned about how those photos would be used or how the information would be used, but we all agreed that we wanted what was best for our community, and so we agreed on the external cameras only in that particular instance. And this had to be like 6 or 7 years ago. It was when I first joined the school committee, and so I think that we need to take a look at that as well. Whatever, if it was, I can't remember, if anybody else remembers, let me know, but I can't remember if it was an agreement or it was a policy, but I feel like it was a policy that we voted
I
on.
think you're correct, Vice Chair. I don't believe we had a separate MOU or a contract. It was a policy, and a MOU would supersede that.
Okay.
So that,
Yes, yeah.
thank you, Vice Chair. That's going to be looked at. Those are the two issues anyways, the exterior and making sure, Solicitor Bonacani indicated that, again, it clarifies, it codifies that, the internal cameras are being, the school department officials look at, police are not, unless it's a catastrophic issue, which is, it's been used, I believe, 7 times, 6 false, and then one was active.
The current draft we have now, and I don't think there's any disagreement on this issue, that does separate the exterior cameras from the interior and the different reasons for and purposes for that use and access of the exterior cameras compared to the interior ones. Just
So, Mr. Collins, on the motion, Mr. Collins has a motion to the 13th, but if we can, we could wrap this up on the Chapter 74 meeting at Putnam.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, may I?
Ms. Hurst, yeah.
So I would support us extending it to the 13th, but I have real reservation about taking it up at the Chapter 74 meeting, particularly because I don't want to be rushed, and depending upon what it is that you return to us at that Chapter 74 meeting, I want to be able to ask whatever questions I need to ask. I think this body needs to be able to understand exactly what the changes are, and I don't think that that's fair to put on a Chapter 74 meeting with a bunch of kids and staff and faculty that have been there working to put on a Chapter 74 meeting for us.
That's fine. The motion is to go to the 13th. Again, it could be wrapped up before then, but then we'll have time, everybody can review it. So motion made by Mr. Collins to extend till March 13th meeting. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Attorney Murphy, Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Ms. Gresham, Ms. Hurst,
Yes.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor,
Yes.
Mayor Sarno.
Yes, more than sufficient votes, matter passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Attorney Keefe. Thank you, Solicitor Bonacani. E is a vote to approve the position of Assistant Superintendent of Community Engagement, Family Empowerment, and Partnerships. Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This position was birthed out of the 100 days findings, data from the district, as well as other urgent matters that emerged from Super Saturday and Super Sundays, community engagement activities, parents providing feedback and giving information on what their needs are. In this position, the job description is in your packet, and it really will encompass a great deal of community engagement, as well as finding new partners that can help us lift our 4 strategic priorities.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. As you put your team together, is there any questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Collins, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Attorney Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Ms. Gresham,
Yes.
Ms. Hurst,
Yes.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor,
Yes.
Mayor Sarno.
Yes, more than sufficient votes, matter passed. Thank you. F is to approve position of Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, Instruction, and Professional Development. Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we are full aware, we're very happy for Dr. Bolsh as she makes her exit from Springfield Public Schools to become the new superintendent of East Hampton Public Schools. With her parting, it's an opportunity for us to shift her position into one of Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, Instruction, and Professional Development, in addition to absorbing several of the responsibilities that Dr. Balch currently has. This position would expand as well as include supervision of key departments in Springfield Public Schools.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent Dr. Deneau. As you can, you put your team together. Is there any questions or comments? If not, is there a motion on the floor?
So,
Motion by Attorney Murphy. Is there a second?
second.
Second by Ms. Hurst. We got a lot of tie vote. Pick. Roll call vote is required. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Attorney Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Ms. Gresham,
Yes.
Ms. Hurst,
Yes.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor,
Yes.
Mayor Sarno.
Yes, more than sufficient votes, matter passes. Thank you very much. Section 3, last section, information discussion items. A is the Commonwealth of Massachusetts virtual school enrollment update pursuant to the statute of general laws, section C 71, subsection 94, and the regulations of 603 C and R 52.00. Play that number. Madam Superintendent, Dr. Deneau.
Thank you, Mayor Sarno. Chief St. Lawrence brought to my attention the fact that it was the will of the school committee to ensure that there was a cap of enrollment to our virtual school. He's going to just share some updated data to ensure that we are in compliance with the wishes of the school committee.
Thank you, Chief St. Lawrence.
Thank you, Dr. Null. Good evening, members of the school committee.
Good evening.
It was about 1 year ago this month that we learned that the number of Springfield students enrolled in a Commonwealth of Massachusetts virtual school had reached 1% of the total enrollment of Springfield public schools. And that allowed the school committee to consider enacting a discretionary enrollment restriction, hitting that 1%. On February 29th, 2024, last year, if time flies, the body voted to enact the 1% enrollment restriction. And so we had committed at that time to come back to you all and just give you a status. How did things look 1 year after the fact? And so this is what we're going to talk about today. So looking back at last year when we came to you, the enrollment had peaked at 1.03%. And what we see a year later is that the enrollment of Springfield students in a Commonwealth of Massachusetts school has eased to about 0.88%. All right? So this really just means two things. Number one is that there are no action required from you at all tonight. The enrollment restriction that you put in place last year remains in effect, so there is no action required. But the second thing that it means is that we estimate that there will be 50 seats available in a Commonwealth of Massachusetts school next year for any Springfield family who is looking for a Commonwealth of Massachusetts virtual seat. And that will be on top of seats available in our Springfield virtual school. So again, while not required, the department does encourage school committees to revisit this vote. And so this is really just us bringing the data back to you 1 year later, just so you have a sense for where things stand relative to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts virtual schools. Thank you.
Principal Allison Lynch has done a wonderful job. We've had some great school representatives. Serenity Martinez is a virtual school representative, and the young man who was here before really came out of his shell. Gives another option to our parents and guardians to stay in our Springfield public school system. So that's good to know. It's been quite successful on it. So I'll open it up if there's any questions or comments to my school committee members.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Vice Chair Naylor, please.
So it looks like, based on the chart that you just showed us, that there's a widening gap of the number of seats that are available versus what we had in prior years. Does it look like we're in a situation where enrollment will continue to decline and perhaps rethinking what that structure looks like, or is it just by happenstance this year?
Yes, I definitely don't think that the cap that was put in place last year is affecting this at all. I do not know if we have enough information right yet to project where this is going, because there is a very specific family that is looking for a virtual school opportunity, as we mentioned with the student representative. So we do know that this is about that overall the Commonwealth of Massachusetts virtual schools enrollments declined about 2% across the state from last year to this year. So it's hard to say really based on demand, but it could be just resetting after the COVID demand spiked.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, also, if I may ask, Are we still, Superintendent Denal, are we still advertising or making families aware that this is an option? Because I know when we were in COVID, it was a very highly requested thing, right? And other than the fact that we know because we're on a school committee, I wonder how many other families are aware that this is an opportunity for them.
That is a very good question. We want to make sure that our parents are fully aware of all of the learning opportunities available to them. So I have charged Chief Escribano with compiling a catalog of all of our schools and everything that's offered. And we are definitely making sure that we highlight this amazing opportunity. I made a note to myself, maybe I shouldn't say it publicly, but we want to get those 208 students back. So we have the virtual school here in Springfield Public Schools. It is an excellent model. I conducted a focus group with those students. They love that school. And I know it's only a matter of making sure that these 208 students get exposed to that opportunity. I'm confident we can get several of them back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Neal. Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Neal. Ms. Hurst, please.
Can't hear you. Your microphone.
Sorry, clearly. Sorry, it's been quite a day. I actually am a little confused, so bear with me, or please help me to better understand. So are we saying that our enrollment has decreased?
So this is not our enrollment at all. That's the.
This is the Commonwealth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got
But it's even worse than that. It's the percentage of Springfield students enrolled.
at the Commonwealth, not
School.
our virtual school that Principal Lynch runs.
Correct.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got a little thrown off when the mayor said that. So this is the Commonwealth School. And so the number of students that we have enrolled there are reflected in this number here.
Right.
And is what you're saying, Dr. Denal, is that you would like to see these 208 students come to our school instead of the Commonwealth School? Got it. And so our role as the school committee would be to evaluate whether or not we want to continue to have the cap or not,
Correct.
which could potentially, depending upon which way this body were to vote, could help to bring those students back because they would have an in-house option.
That's right. And so there was no cap prior to last year. And so, again, once we hit that 1%, you all had the discretion to either move forward with a 1% restriction, which you all did, or we could have left it uncapped, or we could have set it at a different rate. So that is entirely in the discretion of the body.
And perhaps I'm supposed to know this, and I apologize for not, but how do we fund the students that are enrolled in the Commonwealth Virtual School? Is that as well through Chapter 70?
Well, I'm going to give you my best answer, but we may have to defer to Mr. Roach.
Bring up the money, man.
Yes, it's through chapters.
So this is a part of the Chapter 70 funding?
Yes, so it comes through its school choice formula, and we pass along, we get the Chapter 70 from the state, and then we pass along a little over $9,000 per student.
So 9,000 times the 208 that we have.
Yep, it's about a little over $2 million.
Do we have a breakdown of the grades of where these 208 students are in?
Yeah, absolutely. We can provide that to you right after the meeting, if that's all right. But we have great data. It's all publicly available right from DESI's website.
And I think my last question, Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Sure.
Dr. Denal, in our current Springfield Virtual School, do we have enough enrollment space to absorb these students back?
We definitely have space in the school. I'm not quite sure if we have space for all 208, but we can always make space because there are Springfield students and we want to be the ones to educate them. If I may also add, I know that with some of the vocational school choice opportunities, I know that if we offer that particular CTE pathway, we do not allow those students to leave. We don't approve the students to go there. I'm wondering if we could consider something similar for virtual school. Just food for thought.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that was going to
If
be,
you're done, Ms. Hurst?
I am,
done?
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Collins?
is participation in the virtual school, because I believe we decided on this before we had our own. Is it voluntary? Must we allow students to go to the Commonwealth, or do we have a choice?
Chief St. Laurent?
It is my understanding that it's essentially a school choice option. And again, that this 1% cap that is in place just restricts the total number of students from Springfield that can essentially school choice to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts virtual school. But I think it does need to remain a choice per the state laws that are listed on the agenda.
Chief St. Laurent, didn't this start to originate in Greenfield first?
Yes, the two, I always struggle with this, but there's the Greater Commonwealth Virtual School, which is formerly the Greenfield Commonwealth Virtual School.
Yeah.
The second one is the Tech Connections Academy Commonwealth Virtual School. So those are the two state options that are available.
Well, and I think your point was, you brought up is well taken, that now that, knock on wood, the worldwide COVID-19 pandemic has gone by the wayside, more students or their children engaged, personally in school. But I think what Superintendent Dr. Denal indicated, we've had our virtual school has been good, very good, and the parents and the students, we see it right here with the representatives we had. So maybe those other family members or students will look back and come on back if you want the virtual. If not, come back into our schools.
Yeah, I think there's some compelling reasons for that. The two that I remember from last year was that there were some opportunities for sports eligibility.
That's right, yeah.
One, and number two, I think there were some in-person events, which I think our student representative spoke to last time. So definitely some compelling reasons for our Springfield virtual school option.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, Chief St. Laurent? Okay, Chief St. Lawrence, you got Jeremy St. Laurent there. You guys are confusing me here with this stuff. If there's no other questions or comments, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Collins, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Naylor. Roll call vote is required. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Attorney Murphy, Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Ms. Gresham,
Yes.
Ms. Hurst,
Yes.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor,
Yes.
Mayor Sarno.
Yes, more than sufficient vote. This matter passes. To everyone, have a great and safe school vacation. We'll see you back after that. Thank you for watching. Good evening, good health, and God bless. Thank you.